because she grabs me and tells me to run. When we made it to the porch, I heard this guttural, like, scream, cry. My name is Julie McQuaid, and how I interested in the Bigfoot phenomenon was I had an experience when I was little, and I think that that's what led me to just as I got a little older, and then when you get into school and you can do some research in the library and stuff, you just research into what you're interested in. And so I've always been drawn to Bigfoot, and then just other like Greek mythology, things like that, or other cryptids in general. So that's kind of how I got into the Bigfoot thing.
Well, having an experience as a child had to be kind of traumatic. Can you give me some details on that?
It wasn't super traumatic. I know some people have had some traumatic experiences. It was just, all it was me and my cousin. Well, I should start off by saying my great grandpa lived very primitively. Like he lived out, there was outhouse, no running water or spring house. Potbelly stove, in the living room for heat. And this, I was very little when it happened. I was 4, and I was out with my cousin, and she wanted to go up and play in the woods. And my pap had kept his yard, mowed to a certain point, but then the woods would start at the tree line, and there was a snowmobile trail that I think she was trying to get to. Now, this is in the summertime, so there was no snow on it or anything. So we were kind of going up the little side of the hill to get to the snowmobile trail. Well, we didn't get that far because she grabs me and tells me to run. And I mean, I'm 4, so I'm following her. She's my older cousin. So we run back down to my pap's house and get on the porch. And when we made it to the porch, I heard this guttural, like, scream, cry. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was just the oddest thing I'd ever heard. And then about 2 minutes after that, my pap comes out and he says, "You girls are playing on the porch today." And of course we did. Do what pap says because we're just little. But that was my experience. And I didn't realize what it was until like years and years later when I was in my kitchen watching, the Bigfoot shows were starting to come about, pretty prevalent. And I was in my kitchen just listening to one of those shows while I was doing dishes or dinner. I can't remember what. And they were doing the call blasting, and it was a cry, just like I had heard when I was little. And I thought, well, holy crap. I mean, that, you just have a flashback to what you hear. And that's what happened. I was like, that's exactly what I heard when I was 4 years old. So that was my experience.
Well, that had to be a kind of a revelation whenever you heard that same sound. How old were you when you heard the sound?
4. I would have been 4. My cousin was 8 because she was older than me.
And then how old were you when you heard the verifying sound?
Let's see. I was living in California, so I was probably, I want to say maybe like 29, 30.
So it's a
So
lot of years in between.
it was, yeah, it was a lot of years in between.
Once you heard that sound that verified that you had most likely heard a Bigfoot, what did you do? How did that impact you? What did you do after that?
Well, I just stood there for a minute because I was really, really surprised. And I mean, I stood there for a minute to just make sure that that's, what I heard was what was on the TV. And I mean, yeah. And it was just, I mean, I had always been interested in Bigfoot, but it was shocking. I stood there for a minute to just kind of put myself in check.
And from there, did you start researching or reading about it? What did you do?
Yeah, I had always researched it. So, yeah, but I think I probably delved into it a little more, but I have always done research or read things or, gone to the library because before the internet you had library. But yeah, I had always been interested in it and just tried to keep up on it as much as I could.
So today, you go out and research today?
Yeah, I get to go out and research. It's very, very fun. I love it.
Well, tell me about some of that.
Okay, well, I've done research with the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project, and I've also done some research with the ECBRO, and both have been really, really, really fun. I've gone on, my most prevalent experience, well, to date was my at the lead camp out. for the Pennsylvania Bigfoot project, we had all got together to do a night hike. I had got there a little late because I had to work, so I got there a little later in the week than the rest of the group. But we went on a night hike the first night that I had got there, and that was great. We it was a great night hike, and we had heard some strange vocals during the hike, along with coyote, kind of meshed in with some coyote cries. Well, when I got back, I said goodnight to Mary because Mary was a couple campsites up from me, and I went down to my campsite. And I work third shift, so I'm used to staying up all night. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to make a fire. And this was probably around, I want to say like 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, maybe around 1 o'clock. So I got the fire going, changed into my PJs, and I was sitting really close to my fire ring. And there was a patch of trees right behind me. I mean, not even 3 feet behind me. And I'm just sitting there kind of taking in the fire. And I'm hearing things behind me, but I'm not thinking anything of it because I just wasn't. I was just trying to relax. And as I'm sitting at the fire, I have a favorite water bottle of mine. It's metal, and I had it on the picnic table. And all of a sudden, and I mean, it's hard to show space on this, but I want to say it was probably about 8 feet away from me. At the end of the picnic table, because my campsite, everything was kind of in close proximity. Um, so I hear the water bottle ting, and it just struck me as very, very weird because nothing should be messing with my water bottle. There's no reason why it should make a sound. So I get up with my lantern, and then I hear something running off. And then I go over to the water bottle at the table, and I'm hearing a lot of activity going on behind my tent, because behind my tent started the woods till you got to the lake. And all of our campsites, mine, Mary's, Shelly's, all of us that were there, were on the same tree line. And then I start to think about what I was hearing while I was sitting at the fire. You start to put two and two together, and I was starting to get a little anxious. I was getting nervous. And we had a group text that Mary set up. So I put in the group text, I'm having some stuff go on. And I explained in the group text what's happening. And luckily, my friends Shelly and Steve, who are also researchers, were coming down from the bathhouse. And Steve yelled over, are you inviting us to your campfire? And I'm like, yes. So I come over and I explained to them what's happening. And Shelly had told me, well, not much may go on now since Steve was there because he was a male. And I guess you're more apt to have an experience if you're a lone female, from what she explained to me, which I was. I was just sitting there by myself, minding my own business. And I said to her, oh, okay, and that I just wanted to go back into my tent. So I grabbed some stuff from my camp chair, and they made sure I got into my tent. And I was sitting in my tent, and I thought, you know what? I am just going to sit here and get on YouTube until I fall asleep, just kind of bore myself to sleep. So I'm sitting in my little tent, and all of a sudden I hear these footsteps. I mean, it's just thump, thump, thump. They're going around my tent, and above my tent, I'm hearing this breath. And then I hear stuff on my picnic table being messed with. I can hear the bags, or I mean, I was just starting to freak out. And I put that in the group text. And there was also a bird, but it wasn't a bird. It sounded like a bird, but it was mimicking of a bird, like when a parrot makes a sound. It wasn't that organic, like bird sound. And I know I put in the group text that wasn't a bird. And Mary's texting me back, just yell at it and tell it to go away. And so is everybody else. And I was like, I'm kind of scared. And then I just started to get frustrated, because I can go from scared to frustrated pretty quick. I just wanted to get to my car, really. I just want to get in my car and go to sleep. So I said this little prayer that's on my bracelet, and I got out of my tent, and there was nothing there. And as soon as I turned, Shelly was right beside my tent, and she's sage in my head, and she's like, they don't like sage. And so Steve was taking the sage, and he was going kind of around the perimeter of my campsite. And Mary was down there by that time, and she had her spotlight, and she was shining the spotlight directly behind my tent, because there was a lot of stuff going on in the woods back there. And she asked me if I had a spotlight. I'm like, no. She's like, you might want to get a spotlight because they don't like spotlights. That's literally the first thing I bought when I got back home. And that's pretty much it. And then the second night, that was a Friday night. Saturday night, um, we all had like a little group meetup in my site, and we did the campfire again. And it was again around 2 a.m. I started seeing some eye shine in the patch that was the night before. I was sitting right in front of it. So the patch of from the fire ring to the tree patch, it was probably about 4 feet. And me and my friend Tara and Glenn were sitting right at the fire ring. So we were pretty close to that. And then everybody else was kind of sitting behind us. But I started seeing eye shine. And what was weird is the shine that I was seeing was like a strip. It looked like a reflective strip. And I had asked my friend Shelly about it. And she said that, yeah, sometimes that happens. So I'm looking at the eye shine. And then I saw actual, like the eyes. There was a set of yellow eyes and there was a set of red eyes, and the red eyes were closer to the ground, and they just were watching us watching them. And it was a really, really peaceful experience. Like, it was a really nice experience, very, very different from the experience that I had Friday, because that one put a lot of, I was very, for me, it was fearful and it made me anxious. And but this one, it was kind of like a balance, and this one was very peaceful, and I just felt like a very kind energy from them. I talked to the one, because I had said to the one that was really, really looking at me, and she would just go back and forth, and then she'd tilt her head, like that. It was just really amazing to see. I had said to this one, I said, "Were you the one that was messing with my stuff the other night? Because that wasn't very nice." And I smiled at her. And after a while, this went on for quite a while. And after a while, I got up and I walked back with Shelly was behind me. So we were standing up, and we were looking behind my tent over in the corner. There was a lot of eye shine going on. It was red and it was greens. And all of a sudden, there was this burst of light behind the tent. And then it was a couple feet up, burst again, and then it just took off up through the forest. I mean, I had never seen anything like that before. It was pretty amazing. So that was my experience at Gallitzin.
So have you had that burst of light any other time, or was this an isolated incident?
Right now, it's an isolated incident. I haven't had it happen since or before.
With any of your group, have they ever seen that before?
Well, Shelly was standing with me, and it was Shelly, her husband, and then another researcher, Eric. We were all standing there. We all four saw it because we were just elated. We were just like, wow. And then it happened again, and then it took off up the hill, and we were just in awe. We were kind of cheering about it. But yeah, Shelly and two other people saw it with me. But I haven't personally spoken to anybody other than experiencing it with Shelly and them about getting that nice flash of eye
So that
brightness.
it was an isolated experience for all of you then.
As far as I know, yes. I don't know if it was for Shelly, but for Eric, because he had mentioned to me afterwards, he's like, I have never seen anything like that before. So I think for Eric, yes. For Shelly and Steve, I'm not sure.
Seen one, a visual of one where you actually saw a body?
No.
What else have you discovered in your research?
Um, well, I mean, not much else other than when I was at Gallitzin, I had said to Shelly about prior to me seeing their eye shine, I got this really big ringing in my ears. And she was helping with that. And I got, when we were at the camp out at Virginia for the ECBRO, I got that same huge ringing in my ears. I mean, it was so loud. Um, and then I started to hear, this was Sunday night, the last night we were there. I heard this on the hike too, though. On our hike, I was hearing this very garbled gibberish. I couldn't make out what anything was being said. I was just hearing this garbled gibberish, and I didn't think anything of it. And then Sunday night, when we were sitting by the fire, Daniel was doing some whoops and some tree bangs, and we heard a really kind of strange, unidentified noise. He sat back down, and I was sitting at him with the fire, And I started getting that chirping. And then I was looking off to the right side of me into the woods. And I just started hearing all this gibberish and garble. And I just got hyper focused on it. After a while, that's all I was hearing. I was trying to make out what was being said because it was more than one voice. And it was just so odd. And then he scared me, and it kind of jolted me out of that. But that's the only thing that I've really had happen since.
You talk to the others there to know if they were hearing that gibberish as well?
Well, the only other person that was there was Daniel, and he wasn't hearing it at all. Because I asked him on the hike, "Are you hearing someone talking?" And he was like, "No." Um, and then I had explained to him, he had sent me an audio clip of some recordings one of the other campers got during the week. I'm not sure at what point it was, but he had sent me an audio because he wanted me to listen to it. And I had said to him back that in that audio, you can hear that same garbled gibberish. I said that's what I was hearing Sunday night before
Do you,
or right after I heard that really intense chirping.
do you have a copy of that audio?
I don't. It's Daniel's. You'd have to talk to him.
Okay. Um, so you're hearing this, and that was an isolated thing. On the hike, you heard the chatter or gibberish, and then when you're at the campfire, you also heard it. Have you heard it at any other point?
No, that was my most recent because that camp out, it was just that was on the 22nd of September. Well, since we're in October. So that was my most recent experience with that gibberish. But I had a dream, and this was back in, let's see, I went to Hickory Run in June. So I had a dream when I was at Hickory Run about um it's weird because, okay, it was about a Bigfoot. The Bigfoot was helping me somehow, but I can't remember how. And I had contacted Shelly about this because I thought it was weird. And Shelly usually gives me insight to these things because I'm still learning. And and she said that she has never had a dream of a Bigfoot herself, but people that have come to her that have had similar dreams have eventually had telepathic experiences with these Bigfoot. And at the time, I was like, okay, well, that would be cool. And I really didn't think anything of it until this recent camp out, and I heard the audio, and I'm comparing to the audio what I heard in my head, and I'm putting two and two together again because sometimes I'm a little slow. And I I'm really grateful to have an experience like that. It was really amazing.
Let me clarify now. In your dream, you heard what you actually then did hear on the campout?
No, in my dream, it wasn't. I didn't get any. There wasn't any audio. I guess you could say to the dream. It was more just visual. It was just pictures.
Okay. But you thought that was an indication that you would have some kind of experience with them.
Well, I wasn't sure. That's why I contacted Shelly because I thought, well, it was an interesting dream. Let me see what Shelly thinks about it. And then that was where she gave me some insight into others that have had similar dreams and then what led to these experiences.
Which was at the campout with the chatter.
Yes, exactly. Mhm.
Okay. Well, have you had any other experiences or any other research that you've done?
No, that's about it, other than just going out on hikes with the groups and seeing what we find or what we see or having a good time. That's pretty much it.
What do you think they are?
What do I think that the Bigfoot are?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that they are a very grand spiritual being. I mean, I do. I mean, of course, I think they're flesh and blood, but I think that they probably have abilities that we can't comprehend right now because we don't really know much about them.
Do you think the flash of light, where you saw the eye shine, the flash of light, is that one thing that makes you believe that they have kind of supernatural abilities?
Yeah. Hmm.
Did you think that before you saw that flash of light?
I did. Honestly, I did. I thought that before the flash of light.
Was that from your research?
Yeah, it was from some of my research and then from some other people's research that I think is was done really, really well. Yes.
What are the areas that you mostly research within?
Um, I try to take a biblical standpoint. Um, so I do believe that these creatures have Nephilim to them, and the Nephilim are ethereal beings. I mean, they have abilities that we're never going to be able to comprehend. So I think that some of what they may be able to do could stem from that.
Is there any research out there that you could recommend for people to read or study or go to?
Um, I honestly, um, I have just really been drawn to Scott Carpenter's research. I've watched his YouTube channel. I mean, I know he has since passed, which is very sad because I think that he was doing amazing work. And he did something, and he probably doesn't even realize that he's done this for people, but he was able to show me that it's still okay to be a Christian and research this subject, because I love that he takes a biblical standpoint towards this, and in his help with people or that he has helped, that's what he does. So I would recommend going and watching his YouTube channel. I have gotten so much from it. Like, I'm so thankful that I found it.
I'm glad I got an interview with him before he passed. It was a very
Yeah,
interesting interview.
yeah. That's
So
it's amazing that you did.
yeah, I'm very grateful. So let's go back to that sound that you heard. Have you heard the Sierra sounds, and how did it compare to that if you have?
I have heard the Sierra sounds, and there's a lot of whooping it, but that chatter where they're going back and forth, it was very similar to that. Only it was a lot lower. It wasn't as that because that was high. That was really high pitched and loud. What I heard was a lot lower,
Did it
like
have
tone wise.
did it have like a sense that they were communicating? Was there more than one person or
Yeah,
entity communicating?
yeah. It was strange because it honestly sounded like I was kind of like listening to someone's conversation. Like if you're sitting in a restaurant and you hear people talking but you're not in the conversation. That's exactly what it was like. And I was trying to make out words, but I don't think that there was any way I was going to be able to do that. But it just sounded like I was sitting in on someone's conversation.
Well, that's the way the Sierra sounds are. There's a definite
Mhm.
distinction between a male and a female and very different voices, but whatever they're talking about, there's a lot of emotion involved. Did you get a sense that there was emotion in this conversation?
Yeah, I got a sense of emotion, but I didn't get a sense of like if one was female, one was male, both were male. I didn't get that kind of sense at all.
Was it pretty clear? Was it like was it distinct?
In the garble, yeah. It was clear. Yeah, I mean, it was very garbled, but it was clear. I think that's why I was focusing on it so much, is because I was waiting to hear something, just something I recognized, like a word, or I wasn't even sure what I was hearing, but it was clear what I was hearing. I just didn't know what they were saying.
Why do you think Daniel wasn't able to hear this?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I understand. I mean, not everyone can hear as well as other people, or different tones come in
Right,
different ways as well. That's for sure.
right.
And and in part, you were focused in on it, so you could probably hear it better as well.
Oh yeah.
So, what else have you learned about this since your time when you were 4 and you had this experience?
I learned that there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn. It's all a learning experience, but it's pretty amazing. I mean, it really is. And I'm still learning, and I'm really grateful for that.
Since you had that experience at 4 at your grandfather's house with your cousin, have you had an opportunity, or did you have an opportunity to speak with him about what that was out there, or with your cousin?
No, I haven't seen my cousin in a long time, unfortunately. She lives way down the coastline, and I have not been able to talk to her for a long, long time.
When you came back to the house and your grandfather was there, did you tell him what you heard, or did he hear it as well?
I don't know if my pap heard it or not. And I mean, I was 4, so I really didn't tell him because I didn't think anything of it because me and my cousin were just like, okay, we sat on the porch. I didn't really think anything of it. There was a lot of times where he didn't tell it. Well, he told us to not go play in the woods because he'd come out sometimes and say, I saw a rabid raccoon. Don't go play in the woods. I just killed 2 black snakes. Don't go play in the woods. So we kind of got that don't go play in the woods a lot.
So you don't know for sure if his warning about not playing in the woods that day had anything to do with the experience that you had. It could have been something else.
Right. Yeah, I can't say for sure because he never said, but I mean, it was pretty loud. But I can't say for sure if my pap heard it or not.
You were close enough that he could have heard it though at the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he was in the kitchen and the kitchen door is like literally right there to the porch.
It had to be kind of scary. I mean, to have something that you couldn't identify. I mean, at 4, it might not have been as scary as it would have been as an adult in not identifying something. But how did you process that? Through that, did you just let it go and forget about it, kind of, or did you question it through the years?
I know I just kind of let it go. I mean, I thought it was odd throughout the years, but I really didn't think anything of it, to be honest with you. I mean, if I would have heard that sound as an adult, I would have been freaked out, yes. Just because I had more life experience, to back me up with it. But at 4 years old, I mean, I heard it and I really didn't think a whole lot of it.
Did you tell anyone from 4 to whenever you identified that it could possibly be an actual Bigfoot at the age of like 27 or 30 or however old you were?
No, I really didn't mention anything to anyone until I heard the Bigfoot shows. Because I really, honestly, I just didn't think anything of it.
And after you heard that, then did you share that experience? Who was the first person you told?
Well, I was married at the time, so it was my ex-husband when he came home from work.
What did he say?
He really didn't think anything of it either. He he wasn't as into the subject as I was. So, I kind of got brushed off because he wasn't into cryptids. He wasn't into, cryptozoology or anything like that.
Have you ever had an experience with any other cryptid?
No, no, just this one.
And you haven't seen any like UFOs or craft or anything like that before?
Um, I've seen I mean, you could possibly call a UFO. I can't say it was for sure. I've had dreams about them. Um, but that's about it. Me and my friend Shannon were out watching the Perseid meteor shower at her parents' farm. And we both saw it was these 3 orange orbs just moving along the field outward towards, or, in our sight line, and it just disappeared. So, I mean, you could say it was a UFO craft, but then, I mean, you just don't know for sure.
Yeah, those things are ambiguous as to what you're actually looking at because it's hard to distinguish. I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what else would you like to tell our audience?
Um, that's about it. I mean, I don't really have anything to promote or anything other than to be kind to others, always be kind and compassionate to others. I
Well,
think that's a good thing.
it sounds like your experiences have been fairly comfortable, not extremely frightening for you.
No, not extremely frightening. I was freaked out on that Friday night whenever the juveniles were messing with me, but I really haven't had any, traumatic experiences, thankfully.